Hello, good afternoon. We'll wait just a second here for everybody to filter in. We'll get started in just a minute. All right, we are a minute past the top of the hour, so we will go ahead and get started now. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dan Griffith, and I lead business development for Decisis. Decisis is the new legal research member benefit solution being offered by the Utah State Bar Association. So as of today, you have access to Decisis through the Utah State Bar website. You also still do have access to Fastcase for a couple of more weeks as you transition onto the Decisis platform. So you will continue to have access to Fastcase, as mentioned, for a couple of weeks before that access ends, and then you will be exclusively using Decisis. So the purpose of this call today is to make sure that you're comfortable using the platform. We're going to go through a product demonstration today to show you all of the ins and outs of Decisis, but we want you to make sure that you're completely comfortable using the platform. So if you have any questions today, please utilize the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom screen. David Francisco, who's joining me today, will be leading us in the presentation, and he will pause several times throughout his presentation today. And if there are questions in there, we can ask him at that point in time. So speaking of David, David is one of our product specialists, and he's also an attorney here in Ohio. David has a ton of experience, not only doing legal research on Decisis, but also on products such as Fastcase, LexisNexis, and Westlaw, just to name a few. So if you have any legal research questions today for David, he's an absolute expert and can make sure that those are answered for you. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to David Francisco, who's going to be walking us through today's CLE presentation.
Afternoon, everybody. As Dan was saying, my name is David Francisco. I'm a product specialist for Decisis. If you can't tell by the gray in my beard, I've been doing this for a little while. I'm one of the guys that graduated from law school back in '99. So I like to tell people I started out in the books and now I'm into the AI. What our goal here today is to make sure that you can find Decisis, use it effectively, and have a good idea of what kind of help resources are available to you if you have problems. As Dan said, there will be several points in this where I'm just going to ask for questions. We do have a lot of participants today, so if we could limit that to chat, that would be great. We will try to get through all of your questions. We should have time to get to most, if not all of them. Without further ado, let's get started. First thing you need to know is, how do you find Decisis? Let me bring my screen up and give you an idea of how that works. We've designed this so it's very easy for you to get to. All you have to do is go into the Utah State Bar site, sign into your account, go to your practice portal, and if you scroll down to the bottom right, you'll see right now Fastcase is sitting right here and Decisis is right here. To access it, you just simply click this link and it'll take you right into Decisis. Now, that said, first thing I want you to notice about Decisis is we've designed this to be a very clean look. We didn't want to clutter it up with a bunch of extraneous buttons and things. So it's designed to be very intuitive, very easy to use. I'm just going to give a quick tour around the front page, and then we'll talk a little bit more about the legal research and the types of legal research. So let's go up to the top right of the page. The first thing to notice, there is a little ribbon up here where your bookmarks are. The thing to know about bookmarks is that this is where you're going to save any documents that you bookmarked and any searches that you bookmarked. And those will be persistent, so they will stay there until you unbookmark them. They don't go away over time. Your history is the next one in the hourglass. And again, it'll have a history of all your documents and all your searches. This one is only persistent for 90 days. So if there's something in here that you want to save longer than that, I would bookmark it. And then we're going to come to the question mark, which is going to be the first of our two help functions here on the site. Let's go in. And what you'll see is a little search bar that allow you to search various topics about the site or how questions that you may have about it. Below that, you'll also see that we have a series of quick links, popular articles, and frequently asked questions. Frequently asked questions are designed to be quick hits. So when I click on one of them, I'm just going to get a short answer to that question with a link to a longer article. The articles themselves are designed to be very useful, and this is an area where we want frequent and in-depth responses from our customers about how these are serving them. So let's go into one of these. I've got one on search operators. When we get back to the main research tab, we're going to talk about this a little more, but basically Decisis is set up and designed so that you can use natural language search, what we call search operators or terms of connectors, and Boolean search. So if I want to get an idea of how the search connectors work, I just got a question, Dan, saying that someone's only seeing the main page of the Utah Bar site.
I am seeing the Decisis. So
Okay.
yeah,
I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, no, I'm seeing your Decisis page.
All right. I say if I'm the only person that can see it, it's not a very helpful demonstration. Let's go into the search operators article real quick. And what you can see is it's going to be basically an in-depth article about what types of search operators are available and how they're used. When it's talking about seeking feedback, at the bottom of every article, you're going to see that there's a recommend change button. If you see something that you think is incorrect, if you see something that you think should be added to the article, if you think there's a different topic that needs to be covered that isn't, take advantage of that and let us know. We reviewed all of that feedback on a near real-time basis, and it's really important to us. And it's how we make critical decisions about how we're going to evolve the site. And then there's also, you'll see a list of related articles, and then you can let us know whether the article is helpful. Let's go back a little more. Now the last symbol on the top right is just your profile, and that's just going to give you access to cookies, privacy policy, and you can actually sign out if you want to. Really only comes up if you are having some issues with interfaces. Sometimes clearing the cookies will help. And then going down to the bottom right, you'll see the little chat bubble down here. This is our chat support. When you click into this, this is going to allow you to get into a live chat with a live operator. This is not a chat bot. This is not any kind of automated system. The person who's on the other end of this is either has a law degree or an extensive legal research background, usually at least 10 years or more of experience. And their job is quite simply just to help you. Whether it's a small question or a large question, that's what they're there for. It's very easy to access. You're just going to give them your email address, some basic information, what category of help you're looking for, and your question. And then you just hit submit, and that will launch the chat. One thing I want to know is we just expanded these two. Is this chat is available 7 days a week. Monday through Friday, it's available from 8 a.m. until 11 p.m. Saturday and Sunday is a little more restricted, but it's still available from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. And that's East, and for you folks over in Utah, that's Eastern Standard Time. So that would be about 6 to 9 and 6 to 5. And let's go back to the front page. Any questions about anything I've covered so far, or any questions that have come up, Dan?
Yeah, there are a few questions I'm trying to answer as well, but just a couple that came up that people may be curious of. One was, is the Decisis tool available to just attorneys, or is it also available to any others such as paralegals? or support staff, excuse me. And that is, it's going to be available to anybody that has a Utah State Bar login. It is a single sign-on through the website, which David showed at the very beginning. So anybody that has access to the Utah State Bar website, they'll be able to access Decisis through that single sign-on. And other questions about how to access Decisis, maybe a couple people joined a few minutes late.
Nope.
It is available on the Utah State Bar homepage. At the bottom of the page, you'll see, as David's scrolling down there, that box that shows Decisis, that is where it is available. There were a couple other questions. One is, does it work effectively with Firefox? And it does. I think David's on Chrome right now, but you can utilize Firefox or Safari. You can also utilize your phone if you just log in again to the Utah State Bar website. You'll be able to access Decisis there as well. Dean asked if there's a phone number option for customer support. There is. Once David gets started again, I will go grab that phone number and throw it in this chat, so you will have it. The chat is more preferable because what David had mentioned before with the legal research supports, if you're looking for a case and you have a pretty extensive search terms, it's a lot easier to copy and paste that into a chat than verbally reading to you, a very long search term in order to find the cases that are relevant. So there are a few other questions I will start answering, but I'll pause here. David, if you want to continue on, I know some of these questions you'll be getting to in just a few minutes. So I don't want to jump ahead too much here.
Yeah, and I'll just say that, yeah, the other thing about the chat and the reason we like chat is, again, we look for feedback on the product on a regular basis. And the nice thing about chat is that we're getting a lot of chats about particular topics that gives us areas to focus in on quickly. We try to be extremely responsive to issues that may or may not be coming up with the users. All right, so let's get into the actual search. So again, designed to be very easy and intuitive to use. So you'll see there are basically two options up here: search all legal content, and you can narrow that down by type of content or jurisdictions, and browse specific legal content. And I'll get to browse specific legal content in just a minute. But when I go to narrow this down, what I can do with my jurisdictions is I can set one or multiple jurisdictions. So I can set Utah as my preference, maybe Utah with related federal, or I could, if I wanted to look at results from specific states, I could click more than one state. Same thing with federal courts. I have the ability to add and subtract jurisdictions as I want. Another thing to know about this, so if I select Utah, this is going to be somewhat sticky. What I mean by that is when I select Utah, if I leave the site and then come back, that's still going to be my preferred jurisdiction. So I do want to be aware of that. If I'm going in and I want to look outside of Utah, I want to make sure that I reselect that jurisdiction. In terms of searching, again, it's designed for natural language and or search operators. I'm going to put in a really basic search. We're just going to look at breach of contract. And what I want you to see is, as I'm typing that in, it's coming up with suggested phrases and documents for me to look at. And in addition to that, I'm getting some basic search operator hints over here, some tips. So, how to use and, or quotation marks, or, and not, or, /n. So, if I want to do punitive within 5 words damages, it would look like that. But I'm just going to stay with my natural language search here on breach of contract. I'm going to hit search. And immediately we're going to get a massive set of results. And obviously this is a larger set than I would want to use. This is more cases that I want to read through or look at. So what I will want to do is I'm going to go over to my funnel, my little teal funnel over here, and I'm going to click on it. That's my filters. So these are what we call post-search filters. Now I can take that swath of case law and I can narrow it down by adding additional keywords. I can, if I haven't done it already, I can now look and add specific courts or states or specific courts within those states. So if I go to Utah, you'll see that I have Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, and I have district courts as well. And then I also have the ability to narrow it down by date range. You can see on this particular topic that might be worth doing since my results go back to 1793. And then the last thing I have is a thing called collections. And this is similar to courts, but it narrows the results down by particular types of decisions within those courts. And let's go down to Utah so I can show you one of the things I'm talking about. So for example, in Utah, I have Court of Appeals, District Court, trial court orders. So yeah, that's an important thing to know is we do have trial court orders for Utah and Utah Supreme Court cases. So I can use any combination of these filters to help narrow my results to something that's more relevant to me. Once I've done that, next thing I want you to notice is that even though I'm looking for cases specifically, it still ran the search for the other types of materials and came back with results for them. To access them, I just have to click over into them and it'll take me right to them. So it's as easy as that to get to, and they will adjust as I narrow down my search as well. You can see I can also reorganize the results. They're listed by relevance right now. I can go back in. Personally, I like doing court highest by date newest. And you can see that's reordered me to more recent cases from Supreme Court down. I can also sort the other way. I can do just by court, jurisdiction, date, or document type. On top of that, I can now decide if I want to, if this is a search that I'm going to use frequently, I'm going in every now and again just to see what may have changed. This is something that I can add to my bookmarks with just the touch of a button. And again, these are persistent. If I want to see it, all I have to do is go up here and click into it, and it'll show me my bookmark searches. And you can see right there, I just bookmarked it. We're going to jump into the opinions here in a second. At this point, let's see if we've got any more quick questions that we can answer. I don't want to lose anybody.
Thanks, David. A couple more questions here. Let me pull up my list. The first being, there was a question, what is the database coverage? Fast case only went back to 1950, and the cases for Utah before that were not available. You saw in David's first search, our database goes all the way back to the 1700s, 1793. So the you'll see that there's not a date restriction on there. Another question that we received, is this being recorded for future reference? Yes, this is being recorded. I am not 100% certain where it will be located, but I will get with the the Utah State Bar staff to see exactly where the recording will live. But yes, this session is being recorded. There was a question about how do I select Utah Federal District Court decisions?
Mm-hmm.
So David, do you want to show that real quick in your post-search filter?
Yeah, you can. In the jurisdictional filters up front, you could have gone for specific federal courts as well. But in the filters, again, I can go down and you can see I can go to any of the circuits, and I do have access to those district court cases as well as specific court types of courts in the states as well.
Awesome, thank you. That's within the collection there. There's another question, are the post-search filters sticky? They are not. The pre-search filters are, but the purpose of that is oftentimes you may be looking in the same jurisdiction, so For example, if you're looking in, Utah with federal, you can select that as your pre-search filter. That's going to be sticky for you. And then once you run your initial search, you can utilize the post-search filters to dive into more specific search results. So you don't have, like David's showing right now, 10,000 plus cases. So I see more questions coming in, but I will start looking at those and responding as I can. David, if you want to take back over, I will try to address all of the questions.
Okay. Let's just take a look at specific case opinions. Now, before we go into them, again, you're going to notice that if I want to just bookmark this page, it's available to me, so I can bookmark that case specifically. Again, just touch a button. You'll see it changes color to let me know that it's been bookmarked. I can also download the document and or email it. To download it, you can see it's just going to go down. It'll show up as a PDF document. And once it's downloaded, I can open it. When I go into the opinion itself, let's go down a little bit. Let's resort this again. So we can get ahead of ourselves a little bit. I'm going to do one that has a negative case treatment. And you can see right here in the excerpt up here, I've got the case name, if it's been cited or if there's a negative citation to it, what court, and a quick excerpt of the case. When I go in, click into the opinion itself, what you're going to see is that I now have a split screen with my search results sitting on the left-hand side of the screen and the individual opinion I'm looking at on the right-hand side of the screen. The only time this does not happen is if your screen is, say, a cell phone or a small tablet, and the system determines that it would make the text too small to be discernible. Then it won't give you the split screen option. Otherwise, you're always going to have this option. At any time, I can go back to just my results just by clicking this right-facing arrow here. And if I want to go full screen on the opinion, all I have to do is click this left-facing arrow right here. But I do like the ability to be able to look at an opinion while I'm still in my results list. I just find that very helpful. Let's expand this up to a full page so we can take a little closer look at the case opinion. Couple things to notice about it. One, you're going to see a left-facing arrow and a right-facing arrow. These are fairly simple. This just I'm in the middle of a results list, this is going to take me to the previous result. And then the right-facing arrow is going to take me to the next result. Again, just like the case when I was at the front page, I still have my bookmarks, my ability to download, and my ability to email the document. What you can see here is I've got the case, I have a negative citation on that, so we'll go into that in just a second. I also have several reporters listed here, and one of the things that you can do with us is you can see that the one that's highlighted in red is the pagination that is going on. If I do a citation right now, it's going to refer to those page numbers. If I click on one of the other reporters, it'll change it so that the pagination it responds to that reporter. And so now if I want to go down into the opinion and pull a citation out of it, all I have to do is highlight the area I want to cite, let go. I can pick a format for it, and you can see we have several citation formats, including state specific. And then when I let go, that will just copy it to my clipboard, and I can paste it into my document with the citation, with the page numbering that I've selected. Any questions about that? We usually run into a question or two on citation.
Thanks, David. Couple more questions to address real quick. Definitely appreciate the engagement. I'm also going to put my email address into the chat, so if your question doesn't get answered today, you can feel free to reach out to me directly afterwards, and we'll make sure that every question that's asked gets answered. I know there's a lot coming in, so I don't want to inadvertently skip over one. The first being an answer to where you can find this recording afterwards. you can email CLE@utahbar.org. And they will get you a copy of this recording. So that is in the comments. If you search through there, you will find that. There was a question about downloading in different versions, such as PDF or Word. As of right now, when you hit download, it defaults to downloading as a PDF. But if you do need a different format for that, you can select the email icon. David, if you want to click on that real
Yep.
quick, you'll see that once you go to email the document, there are a lot of different ways to customize that. You can email it as a Word doc. You could double space it. You could bold it, change the font size, change the font type, everything like that. So if you do need a different format than PDF right now, emailing is the best way to go about doing that. And then we received another question about Utah trial court orders.
Mhm.
So David, if you want to go to the post search filter real quick, I just want to
Yep.
showcase where you can just filter if you need those trial level decisions.
Yeah, we're gonna go back
Yeah,
down
I'm sorry,
below state, we're gonna go to
yeah,
collections.
go up to Utah. Up, David, up to Utah.
You don't wanna go to the TCOs and.
Nope.
on the
I'll show
collection.
the easier way
Okay.
to go about it. Yeah, click
That's
on that
fine.
plus
So right here then.
Utah, and then plus next to the district courts, and then you can dive in specifically to the district court that you would like, and then you can open up that third, fourth, or fifth judicial district to see those different trial level court which are found right there. So if you do just need to look into the district courts, you can do so by selecting that checkbox next to the Utah District Court, and that would select all of those lower courts for you. But you do have the ability to dive into the specific ones as well if needed. So thank you, David, for showing that real quick. And then again, I will jump back into the questions if you want to continue on.
Sure. So back to the case, we've gone over the opinion, we've gone over how the pagination works and how you can pull a citation from there. Let's talk about the citator a little bit. Our citator is called intercite, and it, quite frankly, is designed to be reliable. And I don't honestly think that is a lot to ask of a citator, but quite frankly, I have a lot of experience with citators.
David, I think we're seeing a team.
I saw that. I have a lot of experience with citators that just don't work that way. You can see ours is fairly straightforward. It's going to give me a list of all citing decisions and any negative citing decisions. You'll know there's, if I wanted to go through the citing decisions on this case, there's quite a few. So again, you're going to have filtering options. You can see I can filter down by court, either federal court or state court, and by some agency courts. And also you have a date range filter as well. One thing to be very clear about our citator. We actually stand behind it. So there's not any disclaimer saying that you shouldn't rely on it or that you should do additional research. If our citator says that it's good law, it's good law. If it says that there are negative citing decisions, there are negative citing decisions out there. Our citator is based off of one of the oldest and most extensive citators in existence, and we have full faith and credit in it. And you can see as it sorts the citing decisions, it's just going to very simply go from the highest court down to lower courts. And that's how it sorts that. Does anyone have a question about the citator or about our inner cite?
No,
Because I do think this is a feature.
citator. Yeah, but just a couple other questions I wanted to address real quick. One being, what is the Decisis order of preference when you run a case? It defaults to by relevance based off of your search terms that you put in and the post search filters. But if you need to change the way that it populates, you can do so. David's going back now to look at that. If you want to pull up the search.
Yeah, again, when we were going, let me go back to the list.
Yes.
When we were looking at the cases, one of the things that we said is that the results are sorted initially by what we call relevance, which is algorithmically determined. It's just going to go from the cases that tend to be cited to the most to ones at least. I do personally like the ability to sort from like core highest to date newest. As often that's what I'm looking for, is something that's fairly fresh on the subject, especially if it's a subject I tend to know a good bit about already. So if I'm just checking for changes and see if there's anything relevant in the law that's changed since the last time I've done this. But yeah, you can see again, there's a variety of ways that I can let it default to relevance, but I can also go in here and manually reset the priority based on what's more relevant to me. You know, sometimes maybe I am looking for that 1793 case. And I'll just, you can go from oldest to newest. So there, we've tried to give a good variety of options without, again, there's a balance here between effective and overwhelming. So we're trying to give you enough choices that you can do quick, effective research without giving an overwhelming number of options that just get people turned around. And hopefully you can see that as I'm going through the site. Everything that I'm showing you is designed to be functional. Nothing in here is meant to be flashy or, gee whiz. It's designed to get me from A to B to C to D quickly and without a lot of confusion. And hopefully that answers your question.
Yes, it's
Absolutely keep asking those questions. I will go back and forth as much as we need to. There are a lot of people here today. But I really want to make sure that every one of you has a good understanding of how the system works before we're done. Like Dan said, he'll put his email up. If anybody has any additional follow-up after this that they need, reach out to us. We will get back to you.
awesome. Thank you, David. Yeah, if you
Yep.
want to continue on, I will I'll put my email in there now, but also continue to monitor and answer the questions coming in.
Yeah. Yeah, going back to the opinion real quick. The other thing that you note here at the top is there are other ways to search the document as well, not just the reorder the results. So I can do a word keyword search through the document itself. I can also take those page numbers as I've organized them, and now I can go through the opinion based on the page numbers. So it'll take me page number. There's 1938, 1939, etc. And then I also have the ability to search through specific search terms. This is also really good when you have multiple search terms. And let's go back to a real basic part when I was talking about natural language search. I typed in the 3 words breach of contract. The system is sophisticated enough to understand that that is a search term. So it will give me results that have the words breach and contract in them, as well as breach of contract, but it's not going to go back and find connectors. Like, again, I've been doing this for 25 plus years, and I remember if I did something as simple as breach of contract without some sort of editing on that, it would give me results of all cases that had the word of in them. That's not the case with the way these algorithms work. And again, if I were to go over to the other types of materials like codes and court rules, click into them, you're going to see a very similar setup as with the case law. So when I go into, again, codes and court rules, I have search filters that I can use over here. I can go down by category, jurisdiction, collection. Let's just go down to Utah and show you guys what you have. So we've got Utah code, Utah state and federal court rules, and then you also have all the federal regulations, registers, and any relevant agency decisions. Again, split screen, I can adjust the screen by the click of the arrows. You'll see things are a little bit different on the topsies when I go into a specific result, primarily because what you'll see here, like here on a statute, so I'm going to have the ability to get into the table of contents for the entire code, and I can also see archived versions of this code. So if I click that, I can go back down all the way to 2007, and I can pull any of these, compare the differences between the two versions. Table of contents will just take me to the entire Utah code, and I have the ability to sort through that either by doing a general keyword search of the documents, or I can also do a search of just the table of contents. We'll get into this a little bit more in here in just a second. All right. Any questions about that type of research? Again, I don't want to miss anything. I don't want to be speaking too fast. I don't want people to feel like they can't understand what I'm saying. So please, if you have a question, if something doesn't seem to make sense, please ask.
Yeah, thanks, David. A couple other questions here. One of the questions was, is there negative treatment on all cases?
No.
And yeah, that answer is no.
No,
So yeah,
not all
some
cases have
not.
negative treatment, and that's one of the other searches I run. I do stop and frisk, and the case that should be familiar to pretty much all of us is Terry v. Ohio, which is the stop and frisk case, and it has over 50,000 citations without any negative citation.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Another question that recently came in is it required to use search term operators when you run a search, such as breach of contract, which you did? You didn't put quotes around it.
Nope. When we say natural language, that's without altering it in any way with the search operators. So no quotation marks, no and ors or / number of words, any of that stuff. That's natural language, but you can use them to, especially if you're comfortable with that and you find that it gives you better results overall. We've all been trained a little differently over the years. For an example, out of box, I was trained initially on Boolean on a fixed terminal in the law library. It was super expensive to use, and you could hardly get time on because everybody wanted to use the same terminal. And when back in those days, you would sit down with a pen and paper and craft very, very precise Boolean searches so that I could get as few relevant results as possible, because it was really difficult to move on from those and filter them further back in those days. These days, I do my research exactly the opposite. I tend to start incredibly broadly and then use all the tools at my disposal to quickly and efficiently narrow it down to a usable number of cases, codes, statutes, court rules, whatever it is I'm looking through.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Yeah, the biggest difference you're going to see in not using quotes versus using quotes, when David ran a search for breach of contract, you saw some of the different results that came back that were pulling words such as, breaching, contract, contracting, contracts, different derivatives of those search terms, where if you put that in quotes, breach of contract, it's going to be exactly breach of contract. So if you're looking for that specific search term, then yes, you can put it in quotes to pull back just the breach of contract written exactly that way. But it is certainly not required on the Decisis platform.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you straight up, one of the areas that I still like to use search operators on is when I'm looking for a name, I will frequently do something like, I don't know why it's not giving me that. But within, 2 or 3 and last name. That way, if there's a middle initial or anything coming in for them or commas or anything like that, it doesn't, I still get the name back. So you'll see, I think there's still a use for them. I'm not saying that they're completely irrelevant, but I also don't want people to be afraid of feeling like they have to use them, because you don't. Again, I could look through the name through other means, through natural language. I might have to do a little more filtering, but I could still be able to do that with it.
Awesome, thank you. There was also a couple of questions. If you could re-show how to find the statute history. There was a couple questions that asked, if you could show that one more time.
Yep.
And then as you're demonstrating this, there's another question, and that's for the statute history that ask was. But as you pull that up, there's a couple questions about what's the biggest differences between Decisis and Westlaw or Lexis. I just wanted to take a moment to talk through that. So Decisis is actually a sister company of LexisNexis. So we specialize in primary law and making sure that all attorneys within the given state have access to case law, statutes, court rules, that primary case law database. Both LexisNexis and Westlaw, they're investing hundreds of millions of dollars into their platform to come out with the most cutting edge generative AI solutions. And that's not what Decisis is. If you do need those very sophisticated legal research needs, you still may need to require a LexisNexis or Westlaw subscription. But if you need access to, that case law, you need to understand, that the case law is still relevant and good case law, and access to those statutes and some agency decisions, you can absolutely utilize Decisis for that use case.
Yeah, in fact, I would say, primarily the primary difference is because our case law and our citator are as in-depth and as accurate as LexisNexis because we are a sister company. The difference is Lexis and Westlaw are going to have additional tools and types of analytics that are not offered here, and some other sources like secondary treatises that we don't have. That said, I would say even if I'm subscribing to one of those premium services, Decisis can still be very useful to me. I know for a fact when I was in active practice, my subscription was somewhat limited because I only had my state and my federal circuit in terms of case law and statutory research. If I wanted to look in another state, I would either have to expand my subscription or find another way to do it. In this case, if I have a limited subscription, when I go to the Decisis research tool, I have access to all 50 states and full federal. So I even with a premium subscription, this can still bolster your ability to do research. So I do think that there are some advantages to the premium sites, and I would never say don't subscribe because again, just between the generative AI and the analytical tools, I think there are some real advantages to them. On the other hand, this is a very effective tool. This is a very useful tool, and this is a tool that I think can stand up to them and be used to bolster any kind of subscription you have with one of those. All right, going back to the statutory authority. There are several ways to get to what I've shown you before. Again, I could search specifically in codes and court rules and just have that as the primary. If I search in cases, I can just switch over to the results from that there. All my filters are still available to me. And my internet is going to be a little slow on me all of a sudden. I'm going to come off my camera real quick just to make sure I'm getting enough speed on the video. But you can see now I'm back into relevant code sections that are relevant to my search. This is exactly an example of what I'm talking about. If my Westlaw subscription is limited to Utah law and relevant federal district, but I need a California result, I can go into Decisis and get that easily. But when I go into the code, you'll see that since we were just in this one, I didn't click back out of that the archive, I have the ability to access the archived versions of the code. And I have the ability to go into the table of contents. And then the other way that we can access this is that, and by the way, when I'm going into the table of contents through a search like that, I don't know if you noticed how it just scrolled down, but it scrolls right to the portions of the code that are relevant to my search results. And then we'll talk a little bit about more on this because another thing I can do is I can download code sections. So let's go to our other way of doing research. So I'm going to go and we're going to go to browse specific legal content. And this is where it's a little bit different. Where this differs from the other search bar is now I have the ability to tap into more precisely targeted collections of materials. So I have this one preset set as my default catalog for codes and court rules for Utah and related federal. I can set that pretty easily. I just go in here, select what types of materials I want, what jurisdictions I want, whether or not I want federal, whether I want related federal materials to apply to it. And then I would just have to click on the set as default catalog. And that means now that anytime that I leave and come back, that's what's going to automatically come up. Doesn't mean that's all I have to search. I can change again. I can go in here and I can change these at any time. But what you'll notice a little bit different over here, and you can see I can do this with cases are going to show up. You can see by different collections. Codes and court rules. Oh, hold on, let me get back to my default. Codes and court rules, you can see I've got federal codes, I've got Utah code, Constitution, and Utah state and federal court rules. And then same thing for regulations and registers. You'll see there's like the Utah Administrative Code, the Code of Federal Regulations. The key thing on this, especially on like the codes of court rules and the regulations, is in addition to clicking on maybe a specific collection. So let's say I want to look in the Utah code. Now, when I do the search, it's going to be limited to just the Utah code. But I also, again, have access without even putting a search term in. I have access to the table of contents for the Utah code. So again, I can just click in there. I can read through it as I want. I can search. I can do a keyword search through the entire document. And again, I can also search just for specific terms in the table of contents themselves. When I was talking about downloading, there's a common misconception when it comes to downloading materials like this, and it's what is this, is that you can see that I've got a counter here. And if I keep going, that counter keeps going up, and eventually I'm going to hit too many documents. There's a common misperception that this means that you can only download a total of 100 documents. That is not true. The limitation is to 100 documents at a time. So if I wanted to download the entire Utah code, I could, but I would have to do it in pieces that were less than 100 pages at a time. That's all that means. I know we're starting to push time a little bit, so I'm going to run through this a little bit. So let's go back to this and show you just how I would search this. So let's say I want to do a search on theft. Again, I'm doing very basic searches in the in terms of time and efficiency. Obviously, you're not limited to 1 or 2 or 3 word searches. You can do complex searches as well. Once again, I'm getting suggestions and some tips. I'm going to go back. So I lost my default. I'm going to go back to Utah related federal and set that as my default. And then apply it, go to Utah code and hit search. So this is going to be very similar to the case law or the code that I was just showing you. It's going to give me my results list. Again, I have additional filters here, which are in this case going to be primarily limited by keywords since we're in the actual code itself. And then when I go into one of these, you'll see, just like we were talking about before, I have my results list on the left, and I have the specific section of the code I'm looking at on the right. I have access to the archived code versions. This one goes back to 2008. And I can, again, even through the results, click right into the table of contents. And again, in this situation, when I click into the table of contents, when I get there, it's going to automatically scroll down. That's not me doing the scrolling. It's going to automatically scroll down to the relevant parts of the code that were in my search terms. You can see how they're in blue instead of black. Any questions about this or searching through codes or anything like that?
If there's a few more questions I wanted to hit on, I'm trying to respond as quickly as I can to
Yeah, by the way,
private
great
messages.
question.
But
Really good questions.
yes, yeah, we definitely appreciate it. One of the questions was, will Decisis come up with a desktop app? So at this point in time, we do not have a mobile app, but Decisis is mobile friendly. So you can, on any device that has internet, go to Utah State Bar's website, log in, and then from there you can access Decisis. And then you'll be able to see everything that you see here today. The only exception to that is that if you're on a small screen like your cell phone, you will not see the split screen view. It makes the screen too small to split the screen in half and see the search results and your case at the same time. So that is the only functionality you would use if you're on a phone or small tablet. Other than that, everything that you see today will be operational on a mobile device. We had another question about, can you use search operators in the filter by keyword function? And as of now, you cannot do that, but that's not how it's designed to use. You want to run your initial search with those search operators, and then that post search filter is adding additional keywords that you want to drill down your search results by. So it's the purpose of it's not to run a secondary search. It is just to add those additional keywords to your initial search to drill down your search results to something that's more specific to your matter.
Yeah, I mean, for example, in the breach of contract search, if I was going to use a keyword in the file, it might be something like just the word damages. And help me narrow it down to cases that have those keywords. And then I might, depend on the results, I may continue to bear down. One thing I recommend is everybody get in and they do some sample searches and get comfortable with it. Learn how those filters work. They're very straightforward, but the most straightforward thing in the world is not easy to do if you have no experience with that. So I really encourage everyone to get in and basically play with the system.
Yes, thank you. And then last question that I have so far pulled to the side is there a written manual besides today's training that you can refer to? So in the top right-hand corner of the Decisis page is the help option. So yes, there is the ability to chat or call in and talk to somebody, but if you're just looking for a manual or a popular article about how to do something, you can find that here in the Help Center. So here there are all those articles. If you have specific questions that you are trying to get help with, you can type those in there. The most popular ones are pulled out. There's also the quick links on the left, and then down below, you'll see the frequently asked questions. So this is the best place to find some self-help options if you need some resources after today's call.
And let's not forget again, this is really important. I know we've gotten habituated to not using help in a lot of different contexts because it's customer support, help, however they call it, tends to be less than helpful these days. That is not the case with our live chat. This one is specifically there to help you with problems big and small. So if I'm having trouble finding something, get on the chat and ask them. They can get you an answer. If I can't figure out how to put this search together on a specific topic, they're there to help you with that as well. So everything from how do I find this to how do I do this to where is this thing located at, our live chat support is there to help support those type of questions. All right. Any additional questions? I know we're about to push against the end of the time here.
Yeah, I did receive a couple other private messages asking how to access Decisis the first time. So if you can just showcase this one more time. It probably is the most important thing to showcase today is how do we get to this thing? How do I access it?
You can't find
There
it,
was a
you can't
couple
find it, you
questions
can't use
about,
it.
are there additional user IDs or passwords, or how do I get my user ID or password to access Decisis?
Now, the only sign-in you need is to sign in for the Utah bar site. So again, when I go into the, go into the practice portal. And you see we've got a nice collection of things here, but when I go down to the bottom right is where Decisis is going to be located. It's right there. Clicking the button will just launch it. And I'll launch it in a new tab so you still have access to the bar site too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I see a couple other questions about downloading a case without the bold text. If you want to customize your downloads, you're going to, as it stands today, you're going to want to email that document. You can email it to yourself or to anybody else. And when you select the email button, you will see several options to customize that document. You can send it as a Word document. You can change the font size or the type of font that it is. So any customizations that you want to make to the document, you'll want to select email. Right now, when you select download, it's a one-click download to make it as quick and efficient as possible for you. So as soon as you click download, it will automatically download to your PC. So I'm going to one more time in the chat because I very well could have missed a question or two. I'm going to include my email address, and that is daniel.griffith@decisis.com. Feel free to grab that now while you still have access to the chat, and send me an email directly if I did not answer your questions today. We definitely want to make sure that you are comfortable using the platform. I want to thank David for going through the presentation today. It was a great job, very in-depth, very knowledgeable. I've received several messages thanking you for the presentation today. So certainly thank you, David, for going through that today. I do see one more question about the phone number. I'm going to grab that one more time and put that in the chat, the customer support phone number. So you will see that here in just a second as well. It is up in the chat further. I believe it was one of the first items I put in chat. So you will see that here momentarily. If you're looking for a phone number to call, you can call our customer service. And you should see that now. It is 833 Decisis is the phone number. So it's 332-4747. There you go. So thank you so much for your time and attention today. Thank you so much.